Welcome to Real Talk Fantasy Baseball. I am Will Power, your host and fantasy baseball analyst, and joined with me today, as always, is Javi the Commish and John Murrow. What's up, guys? How you doing today?
What up, dude?
I like that John has his not a Dodgers fan back on his little name banner right there. It was gone last week, but
I haven't got the byline yet, so for now, we're just sticking with the fantasy baseball name, and we'll figure it out long term here.
Yeah, because the hat wasn't enough, right? To let us know.
I'm open to suggestions. Anything with Philly related would work. So
you know what? Speaking of hats, I am going to put in a order for some Real Talk Baseball merchandise. John, you've already said you wanted to order some. Javi, I don't know if you wanted to order some, but we are going to start doing some giveaways and some prizes and stuff like that. So make sure you listen to every single episode, and we will be able to add you into our raffle or whatever we decide to do for our giveaways. Shirts, hats, maybe some hoodies. I don't know. We'll see. It's all a bunch of possibilities. And 2024 is the year to do it because we're growing. We're growing fast, trying to get the 1,000 subscribers by the end of the season. I think we're going to do it, man. And so every time we hit a milestone, I want to try to do a giveaway.
Let's go, baby.
That sounds good.
All right, today's lineup, we have Waiver Wire top ads. Is Jo Adell a must add? Prospects and injured players to stash. And our newest segment, Break It Down, where we break down a player of our choosing. If you would like to request a player breakdown, put it in the comments below. All right, let's get this shit going.
If it comes to the point where I see Matt Olson there, and I know that Bryce Harper and Pete Alonso are still waiting in the wings, like maybe a round or two later, I think I'm passing on Matt Olson.
Carrying home run after home run after home run. I was like, holy crap. Like, it's the old Altuve,
I'm going after guys like Austin Riley that's going to hit close to 40 home runs with a decent batting average.
It has nothing to do with the luxury tax or any of that stuff, dude. It's just the owners want to bring a champion to a team. They're going to do whatever it takes.
And it looks like the Dodgers and the Phillies are doing whatever it takes because both have made some huge major moves in the last few seasons. Phillies getting Realmuto and Harper and re-signing Nola, signing Zach Wheeler, Ranger Suarez coming out of nowhere again, and, being the ace, and then the Dodgers going out and spending $1 billion in free agency. It's an exciting year for both of our teams. So I'm glad we're both on top right now. Philly's got that number one spot for now, but hopefully it won't last for long. I see the Dodgers coming out on top.
Completely different segment, and I'm not going too off topic here, but the Phillies actually have prospects now, so y'all are in trouble for the long term. But anyway.
We shall see. We shall see. All right, guys, let's get into Waiver Wire. So the top Waiver Wire hitters is Eddie Rosario, Abraham Toro, Brenton Doyle, Connor Joe, and Jo Adell. So those are the top most added in the last week. Let's start with John. John, who is your favorite of this group?
It's got to be Jo Adell. I spoke on him last week a bit. I'll touch it again just because others are catching on to him. And this guy, Jo Adell has been a top prospect and just never really came into his own yet in the league and is starting to now. So some things that I like to see, his expected batting average of 293, his bat speed. I know we're going to talk more about bat speed and how that's now a stat to follow, which is exciting. So his bat speed is 76.4 miles per hour on average, which is the top 97% in baseball. Barrel percentage is in the top 91% of baseball. Hard hit and sweet spot, all above average. So when you're breaking down these numbers, so he's only batting, and I say only, 248 on the season, but the expected batting average of 293 is promising. He's getting a bit unlucky there. We know he can hit for power. He's got 7 stolen bases this year compared to the 5 he's had in his whole career with the Angels. He's going to get constant playing time. Looks like they're taking off the training wheels. And so far, I'm liking what I see out of Jo Adell. And, in a league where outfielders are tough to come by, he's a good guy to pick up right now.
All right, Javi, I know you have Jo Adell on your list also. So why don't you give your little spiel on him too?
Yeah, just to piggyback off of John, his I'm excited for him, just because we haven't really gotten to see what he's capable of, either due to injuries or due to him being sent back to the minors, because he's struggling. Right now is the time for him to kind of shine, with Mike Trout being out. Who knows how long he's going to be out for. He's young, he's 25, you know, yeah, I'm very excited to see what Adele has got. Um, you know, we're gonna be able to finally see him put it all together. Hopefully, he can stay healthy. I don't think they're gonna be sending him back to the minors like they've been doing before. So, um, you know, 28 strikeouts. He's still got kind of getting that, working out the kinks and stuff like that. But I think it's a great thing for the Angels, seeing as they don't really have much to work with right now. Um, so we'll see, but yeah, yeah, Dell looks like the real deal, man, so far.
Yeah, I completely agree, guys. He's definitely the top one on my list, also. And I think that if Adele is available in any of your leagues, if it's I'd say 12 teams or deeper. In 10 teams, maybe not so much, unless it's 5 outfielder league. But in 12 teams or deeper, he should definitely be universally rostered everywhere. Um, so Jo Adell has had some struggles, like you guys kind of mentioned. He's a former first-round draft pick from Los Angeles Angels, and he's been pretty disappointing, actually, since his initial call-up in the majors in 2020. Career slash line is 219, 266, 652 with 25 home runs in 214 games. That has not shown a lot of power. 25 home runs in 214 games is kind of sad, man, considering there's only 162 games in a single season. So that's probably about like 15 home runs for playing 162 games. So of those 25 home runs, 7 of those home runs have come this year in only 36 games. Batting average looks a little weak at 248, but his expected batting average is actually really good at 293. He's hitting the ball harder than ever. Expected slug of 564. He lowered his strikeout rate by 15%. Barrel percentage is 91st percentile. And with his 91st percentile on sprint speed, there's tons of upside to add to his 7 stolen bases already. He's batting in the bottom half of the Angels lineup, but I think that is probably going to change soon. I think that he's actually one of like the shining stars, like from the Angels lineup, right now, especially with Mike Trout being out and Ohtani's gone now. Like there's not really a lot to talk about in the Angels lineup, unfortunately. Yeah, I think Jo Adell's my favorite waiver wire pickup this week, and could be like a main roster spot, in your fantasy rosters this season. I think he's a big sleeper for the 2024 season, and if you get a trade offer and you can pick up Adell, if someone doesn't really buy into the hype or something like that, I would definitely be going for it right now, man. I see Jo Adell as not maybe like a league winner or anything, but he's making strides that make him like a good, third outfielder in any fantasy roster, 12 teams or deeper. All right, Javi, give us your second pick that you have out of the 5.
Okay, so my second pick is Pirates outfielder Connor Joe. He's an oldie, kind of, he's 31. Seems like every year, Connor Joe is in some kind of talks, whether, he's always on a different team, but, he's one of those spark plug kind of guys that I feel every team needs. He's batting 286 right now, with 6 home runs, 22 RBIs, 359 OBP with a 867 OPS. He plays on a young and hungry Pirates team. Like I said, he's very he's like a do-it-all type of player for me. Um, you see him and you see his stature and you don't think that he can hit the ball hard, man. The guy can hit home runs. Um, he always seems to be like like the guy that kind of gets the team going. He strikes out a little bit, like 25 strikeouts. What do you expect, right? But I've always said this about, riding the hot hand right now with all these injuries to outfielders. Um, like Jo Adell before we started talking about Connor Joe, another outfielder that is available if can scoop them up. Out of the five guys that you have out here, there four of them are outfielders. So, that's kind of like the position right now that a lot of people are having issues with, as far as injuries go. But yeah, Connor Joe, I think last year he was with the Rockies, if I'm not mistaken. So he's always on different teams, man, but he's always making things happen. So yeah, I like Connor Joe, man.
Yeah, Connor Joe's an interesting one, only because I'm just reading through his baseball reference page a little bit more, and he was actually drafted by Pittsburgh, and they gave up on him before he ever even made it to Double-A. Spent some time with Atlanta, the Dodgers, the Giants, Colorado, up until 2022, and then last year with Pittsburgh, and coming into his own now. So he's an interesting ad.
Yeah.
He's got first base and outfielder eligibility, so I like that.
Yeah, the first base eligibility, that definitely adds to his value. All right, John, who's your second player that you want to talk about?
I'll go with Abraham Toro of the Oakland and soon to be Vegas, or I guess Sacramento A's and then Vegas A's, whatever you want to call them. But Abraham Toro, currently hitting 287 with 4 homers, 17 RBI, and a 780 OPS. And I'll go with Abraham Toro just because this league, especially right now more than ever, has really become a what have you done for me lately. Look at Jackson Holiday and everything he did in AAA, only to come up here and be humbled. So Abraham Toro is kind of doing the opposite. He last season hit 444 in only 21 plate appearances with a 1302 OPS, but still legit. That was in Milwaukee. We've seen flashes of this guy, but he's somewhat of a journeyman. He's in his 6th season now. This is his 4th team in 6 seasons. He spent time with Houston, Seattle, Milwaukee, and the Athletics. Who knows? I mean, I think he's 26. So, I mean, he's got time. He could just be a little bit of a late bloomer. He's only played in more than 100 games in a season once. So that's why I'm taking that 287 with 4 homers and 17 RBI now with a grain of salt. He hasn't played a whole lot, but in 2022 with the Mariners, he hit 185 with 10 homers and 35 RBIs. So that's why I'm not jumping in completely on this guy. But if you need someone to take a chance on and a team that's going to give him playing time, I like Abraham Toro as a little waiver ad.
The A's I like the A's, man. I don't know I'm very pro
Underdog,
I guess. Yeah, man. Like, like these teams that are not like big market teams, like the A's, Langoliers is finally coming into his own. You got Toro, you got a Rooker who's hitting bombs. Like, maybe their pitching isn't as exciting, but I like these little pieces that they got, man. So kind of
Mason
something
Miller.
to look. Yeah, man. So it's kind of it's a positive thing, for them, like moving to Vegas. They got some pieces to work with. So yeah, Abraham Toro, legit. I like his stats, man.
All right, so now that you guys mentioned the A's, I was watching MLB Network a couple days ago, and they were talking about Mason Miller. They were saying that the asking price for Mason Miller is just incredibly high, that the A's want, top prospects in return for a closer that will throw 101 miles per hour, and with authority too. He puts the ball where he wants it. He's an elite closer on a hot team right now. I don't think that the A's are going to make the playoffs. I don't think they're going to be anything special this year. Someone compared them to the Cleveland Indians from Major League, how like they basically put together this team of like riffraffs and, guys that you've never even heard of before. And it was all the owners, like it was their thought process to put together this team that would just be the worst team in baseball. So that way they could get out of their contract with the city to move to a different city, Like in the movie, the Cleveland Indians they wanted to move to Miami, I believe it was, and become the Miami Indians. But, they turned things around, ended up making it to the playoffs. So are we going to see another? Are we going to see that movie actually like come to life? With the A's this season? I don't think so. I don't think that's actually going to happen. It's a great Cinderella story right now. Coming from like rags to riches, but we're only like 50 games deep. So I don't think the A's are really going to do much. I think that they were also asking, like, do you think that they should sell Mason Miller, or do you think that they should build around him? I don't think a closer is the type of player that you build around. There's so many other pieces that are so much more valuable than a closer. Like, yeah, a closer is definitely needed. You need them to go in there after your starter goes 6 innings and, you guys are winning the game. But what starters do they have that can go 6 innings? Are we looking at Ross Stripling? They don't really have much going on pitching wise. The hitting, like you guys said, Brent Rooker, Abraham Toro, there are some guys in the lineup that look really good, but I think that Mason Miller is probably going to be on a different team by sometime around July.
I wouldn't be shocked. I also wouldn't be shocked if they kept him and he was the only one that they kept, whether it's for a year or a couple of years. I think I saw he doesn't hit free agency until the A's are actually in Vegas. And if they are truly all in, they need something to put some butts in the seats. So, I mean, I don't know. I would love to see him in this hat, though.
Yeah, I bet you would. Dude, there's so many teams that are going to the playoffs that don't have a closer, that don't have a legit closer, like the Phillies, like the Braves, like the Dodgers. I mean, what team other than the Astros, who are actually very terrible right now, but are probably still going to make the playoffs, they'll turn it around. Everyone knows that the Astros are a pretty decent team. And in that division, in the American League West, it's between the Astros and the Rangers, and I think when the pitching actually like starts to like turn it around, because the Astros actually have the highest batting average in the league for this season. They're scoring runs. They're just not limiting the amount of runs they should be. But I think they'll turn it around. I think once the weather starts warming up and they start playing, in baseball weather, I think things will kind of change for them a little bit. Maybe they won't win the division. It could possibly be the Texas Rangers, the former World Series champions, but only time will tell. But I still think that they're going to get probably at least one wild card spot. Any thoughts on that, guys?
Oh,
I could go on and on for days, but I do.
We need to make.
Yeah,
dude. Sometimes I look at them, bro. I'm sorry, dude. We talk about the Astros and teams that they should be beating, right? You see this lineup, and dude, I only say this because I put like a couple bets on them to fucking win certain games. Like they had a series against the Oakland A's where you thought that they would destroy the A's. Oh man, I'm never ever betting on the Astros ever again.
But they are still scoring, 6 runs a game, 7 runs a game, 8 runs a game. So the offense is there. It's just the pitching has just been terrible.
Yeah.
They have too many injuries, man. It's
once
like
they get Lance McCullers back, they'll be good.
Yeah, and then he goes back out in a week and a half because his pinky toe hurts or something.
Yeah.
They have no pitching, and Josh Hader's just been absolute garbage for them.
Yeah, it's kind of like when like his final season with the Brewers, and when he first went over to the Padres. Like it's just, I don't know. Maybe Petco Park just helped Josh Hader be that like elite type of closer because everyone knows. I mean, maybe not everyone knows, but Petco Park is one of the worst ballparks for home runs. So a lot of balls that should be home runs in every other ballpark end up just being a fly ball out, unless there's a runner on third with less than 2 outs, it doesn't really mean much, So I still like Josh Hader. I still like him for the future of this season. Maybe that big contract just kind of like got to his head. There's a lot of pressure on him. These players, even though we view them as just like numbers, on a screen, these are humans, and there's a lot of human error. There's a lot of growing pains, moving to a different team, not knowing anybody. It takes a little while to kind of like get that chemistry, team chemistry, unless you're like the guy like, Max Scherzer a couple years ago, that he could literally go to any team and he's just like into his own zone. Like it doesn't matter who he faces or what clubhouse he's in, he's in his own head anyway. I remember seeing Max Scherzer when Dave Roberts tried to come over and talk to him in between innings. And, Scherzer just like, okay, yeah. And then as soon as Dave Roberts walked away, Roberts said that he could hear Scherzer say under his breath, like, don't freaking talk to me,
Mm-hmm.
So some guys, man, they just get in that zone and they are that guy, all the time, doesn't matter what team it's on. But all right. So that's enough about all of that. I'm going to go to my second player that I picked, and that is Brenton Doyle. So let's see. All right. 26-year-old outfielder from the Rockies, former round 4 draft pick from the Rockies in 2019. Brenton Doyle spent most of his time in Double-A, but he's shown signs of being an above-average hitter in 2022. Between Double-A and Triple-A, Doyle hit 26 home runs, 22 doubles, and 3 triples with a .256 batting average. Then in 2023, Doyle was tearing it up again in Triple-A, batting .306 with 5 home runs with a 1,037 OPS in 12 games. Quickly got the call up to the majors, but 2023 was not so great for the 25-year-old outfielder, especially when Nolan Jones was tearing it up in Colorado at the same time. And by the end of 2023, Doyle finished with a .203 batting average, 10 home runs, 22 stolen bases, and 126 games. Very unimpressive, other than the stolen bases. But so far in 2024, I'm pretty impressed by Doyle. He's batting .281, 337, 801 OPS with 5 home runs, 9 doubles, 2 triples in 42 games. Maybe the absence of Nolan Jones in the Rockies lineup kind of flipped the switch for Doyle. Strikeout rate is down, walk rate is up, hard hit rate is up, barrel percentage is up. I really like what I'm seeing from Doyle so far. He's currently on pace for 20 home runs and 32 stolen bases, which I think is actually easily attainable, especially playing in Colorado. I definitely give my recommendation for Doyle as a must-add going forward. I see enough upside to make him worth it, especially in categories leagues where the stolen bases mean a lot more than they do in points leagues. And with the drop in strikeout percentage and the increase in walk percentage, I think that makes him a viable option in points leagues as well.
Yeah, the fact that he plays in Colorado is
exactly. And
plus,
dude, that was like the thing. That was the thing with Connor Joe. I'm not as high on Connor Joe as you guys are. I know both of you guys were talking about how they were, he was one of your picks. And then John, you ended up going with Abraham Toro because Javi had Connor Joe on his list. But I'm kind of down on Connor Joe, man. Like I think he's fine in like a 16-team league. But I think in 12 teams or shallower, I don't really like Connor Joe. I think it's just a hot streak right now. The move from Colorado to Pittsburgh was such a downgrade that I don't really see a lot of upside for a 31-year-old who's probably not going to be in the league for too much longer. Maybe I think that he caught fire because the Pirates caught fire, but I think that fire is like slowly dwindling in the last, let me see. The last 7 days, he's batting .267, and he was batting over 300, before that. So I think it'll slowly start diminishing, and he'll kind of just go back to, what we saw in previous seasons before Colorado, which was basically a minor leaguer, that's wearing a major league uniform because of the team context. Sorry to be the negative Nancy again. That's me. I always got to say something negative about everybody.
Well, that's where I'll stand here on Brenton Doyle then, just because I think it's not necessarily Brenton Doyle, the player, it's the team he plays for. I think, he's a benefit. He's going to benefit in Coors Field a bit, but there's just something about that Rockies lineup right now. I just can't trust anybody. Yeah. I don't care if they're 22 or 42.
Except when they sweep the San Diego Padres, right?
The Padres are the Madres, as what they say earlier.
The Madres.
The Madres,
Another
but
anomaly right there in itself, man.
Haven't the Rockies just won like 6 straight? Like, that's so crazy, dude. It's like the Rockies, the A's. Like, where are these teams coming from? Where are they pulling these wins from? It's crazy to me, man.
White Sox, I think, won 6 out of their last 9.
Jeez. And then Detroit, right? Detroit's also been winning a lot of games too.
Is it them winning, or is it because the other team is just not playing up to par?
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it right there. It's just like these other teams that are supposed to be like, just going to town on teams like Detroit and Colorado.
Just what I talked about with the Astros. They should have swept the A's. What happened?
Yeah. True story. True story, man.
True story.
All right, John, you went first last time. That was it for Waiver Wire segment. Let's go on to prospects and injured players to stash. Javi, you want to start it off?
All right. So I will start with the injured player that we can start stashing. Royce Lewis from the Twins, third baseman. He's been out with a quad injury since the beginning of the season. He had played 1 game, hit a bomb, and had an RBI, and then he was out. It seems like every year, we talk about the Twins, it's either Royce Lewis or Byron Buxton or, somebody detrimental to the team's success that kind of takes a crap. We have seen big time flashes of all-star play from Royce Lewis. But I was reading today that he has been hitting here and there, and the next step for him is the base running, that's the major one where they want to see how much he has progressed, with the quad injury. They are saying that he's hopefully back by June, no later than June. He's a great player, man, when he's healthy, and he can help this Twins team who has kind of started. They had a slow start to the season, but they've kind of been turning it around. They are above 500. They're third in the Central, so I think them getting, because I think even Byron Buxton is out also. He's been out since the beginning of May with knee soreness. So they can get these 2 guys back. I think more Royce Lewis than Byron Buxton. It would be a very positive thing for the Twins because they're holding their own right now without these 2 guys. So once they get them back, they should be able to put it together. Did you want me to jump into the prospect real quick?
Let's all do our injured players first. Okay. So, John, why don't you go ahead and give your injured player to stash. Real quick, though, I do want to say I love Royce Lewis, so I completely agree with Javi. He would actually be my top pick for hitter to stash. I went the different route, and I chose a pitcher. So eventually I'll get to that, but let's go ahead and go with John's pick.
All right. Also, real quick on Royce Lewis, I will say devil's advocate on this one. I love the idea of Royce Lewis, the player, but if you really look at when's the last time he's been healthy, he hasn't played over 100 games since 2019. So 2017 played 54 games, 2018 121 games, 2019 127 games. This guy can't be trusted. So he didn't play in 2020. He didn't play in 2021. He played combined 46 games in 2022. Played 70 games last season, and I mean he just doesn't play.
The thing with Royce Lewis though is every time he gets hurt, it's a different injury. I would be more concerned if it was the same injury just coming back over and over and over again. The one time when he flipped over the first baseman, he was trying to make it to first, and then they kind of was about to collide. He flipped over the first baseman, landed on his head, ended up being out for a while, and then he ran into a wall. It's all these kind of freak accidents. So I don't want to put too much stock into that. I think he just needs to be a little more cautious. You know, maybe the older he gets, the more cautious he'll be also.
So here's my advice is what I'd say on a guy like Royce Lewis. If you do end up picking him up as a third baseman and you have a great third baseman, I would still keep that third baseman. Keep Royce Lewis is a depth guy and maybe a guy you plug into a utility role, but I'm not trading away an Alec Boehm, for instance. If he's on my roster, I'm not using him as trade bait when Royce Lewis comes back. So
no, definitely not.
My injured player to stash, so I'll switch back over. Eduardo Rodriguez. I'm going to say Eduardo. And a lot of my picks here, I'll say too, it depends on what type of league you're in. So unfortunately, I drafted Eduardo Rodriguez in my ESPN league. About 5 minutes later, I found out he was actually injured a couple minutes before I drafted him. Like literally, it wasn't announced on Twitter yet, which was just awesome. But this is a guy I'm willing to wait on. He went 13-9 with a 3.3 ERA last year. He's not here to save your fantasy team by picking him up now or waiting on him. He should be back, I would say, within about 5-6 weeks, it seems like, if not even sooner. He's throwing now. He's not a true ace, but the reason I really do like him, he doesn't have anything that really jumps off the page, but he's also not expected to be a top-tier rotation guy. So I like Eduardo pretty much for his matchups that he's going to get in fantasy. So when you look at the Diamondbacks and what kind of season they've had, they've been pretty disappointing. I do expect them, Will, I know you're a big weather guy. When it starts warming up, I expect the Diamondbacks to start getting a lot better. Maybe they're not the team that they were at the end of last season, but again, Eduardo Rodriguez does not have to be the ace of that team. They got Zach Gallen, Jordan Montgomery, Merrill Kelly, who's hurt right now. So when Merrill Kelly comes back, you throw Rodriguez into this staff. I mean, he's all of a sudden the fourth pitcher. They look a lot better. And then with Brandon Fada as your fifth. So I like him for the matchups. I like him because he's a steady, reliable guy that eats innings. And, he's only owned, I think, in 33% of ESPN leagues at the moment or so. So he's available. If you're willing to sit on him for a little bit, he's not a bad stash.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Diamondbacks, the reason for their, detrimental season so far is because of their injuries. Like you said, Merrill Kelly, Eduardo Rodriguez, Zach Gallen can't just hold it down on his own. Jordan Montgomery, it's like you need more than just a 1-2 punch, and especially in a really tough division like the National League West, especially when the Rockies are starting to play good and the Giants kind of come out of nowhere and play good. And then, you got the powerhouse with the Dodgers and, I think that the Diamondbacks coming off of that World Series run that they just had against the Rangers, there's always going to be that World Series hangover where they're just a little bit extra tired, more than other teams because they played an extra series and it wasn't just a normal series. It's like a hard played series, and where they just put all their energy out there, all they got out there, and they come back and they're just not the same team at the beginning of the season. We see it with like almost every single team, that comes back. Look at the Rangers, they're not doing as well as they should be right now because World Series hangover. It's not a thing, but it is a thing, if you kind of like believe in all that stuff. I'm a big believer in the World Series hangover. There's a lot of things that I believe, in baseball that don't necessarily make a lot of sense, but it makes sense to baseball people. Baseball is a very superstitious sport. So a lot of these superstitions I actually really buy into because I see it with my own eyes, all right. So that was Eduardo Rodriguez. I like the stash right there. All right. I'm going to go with my injured player, and that is Mr. Clayton Kershaw. And let me see. Sorry. I got to find it in my notes. All right. Clayton Kershaw. Clayton Kershaw has been the best pitcher of our generation for the past, 15 years, something longer than that, actually. He was drafted in 2006, round 1, number 7 overall by the Los Angeles Dodgers. I mean, dude, in 2023, I could tell you his career stats, but just last season in 2023, if he has another 2023 this season, I'm all in, man. 2.46 ERA, 137 strikeouts in 24 starts. Walks were up, 40 walks. That's a lot of walks for only making 24 starts. But 100 innings pitched, a 1.06 whip. So even with all those walks, he was limiting the damage, a 1.06 whip. That's freaking awesome. Kershaw has been one of the dominating pitchers of this generation, but he's dealt with a lot of injuries like most 35-year-old pitchers do. He had the back thing back in 2018 that creeps up sometimes, the elbow inflammation that kept him sidelined throughout the postseason in 2021, and most recently had shoulder surgery to repair ligament damage. It's hard to say how much rust he'll actually have to shake off after this surgery, but one thing is certain, dude, when Clayton Kershaw is healthy, Clayton Kershaw is dangerous. Career numbers, 2.48 ERA in 16 seasons, a sub-3 ERA 13 out of the 16 seasons that he's played, including the last 2 seasons, 2022 and 2023. So I love Clayton Kershaw, man. I know, most people would agree that he is the GOAT of the late 2000s to early 2010s. There's other guys that you could also mention, Max Scherzer, Jacob deGrom, but Kershaw, man, he is. I'm sorry.
When you think he's
good
done,
over there?
right?
If dude, I don't know if you guys watched Carlos and Ernie's show from this past Monday, but they had a guest on there that said that he met Clayton Kershaw at a restaurant. And dude, I'm just like listening to this story, like totally no homo fantasizing about meeting Clayton Kershaw, man. Like that is like the ultimate bucket list to meet Clayton Kershaw. I'm sure you guys have guys like that, that just would leave you starstruck and you wouldn't know what to say, to the person that you met. Clayton Kershaw is definitely up there for me, man.
I met Tom Brady.
I'm not the biggest like football guy, especially when someone got he got in trouble for cheating, for deflating the football. That's the thing that kind of goes through my head, when I'm thinking about guys like that, like Tom Brady. I have him in the same category as the cheater Carlos Correa. I could really, I don't give two shits about either one of those two guys.
I'm not a big Tom Brady guy either. So.
Back to our friend Kershaw. Did you guys think he was going to retire, or did you think he was actually going to come back?
I think he was either going to retire or come back to the Dodgers. I don't think that he was going to. I don't think he would ever sign with any other team. He's going to retire a Dodger.
I mean, why?
Probably after.
Why would you?
Exactly. After 16 seasons, and dude, if the Dodgers win the World Series this year, Clayton Kershaw will retire. He's going to get his second ring. And this year it will actually be like official, versus like the 2020 that has an asterisk next to it, because I don't know what you guys think about the 2020 or 2017 2020 World Series, but I don't really see it as like a legit championship win. It was pandemic year, 60 games. There's so much that could happen in 60 games. We saw in 2018 the Nationals were the worst team in baseball at the All-Star break, and then they end up going out and winning the World Series that same year. Or was it 2019? I think it was 2019, actually.
That's a good take.
And it's like the Royals a few years ago, 2016, I believe it was. Terrible team, but they just go out there, and then all of a sudden they're the best team in baseball, and then they suck again for, 5, 6, 7 more years, something like that. So
we suck again.
I love that.
I don't know, man. A championship is a championship, whether you see it that way or not. I would love that to be
that's what the Astros fans say too. But we still got a championship. We still got I guess, but still, it's like there's so little that happens in 60 games versus 162. There's not even enough time to like get into a rhythm. 60 games, it's like by that time it's like the weather's barely starting to get a little bit warmer, like your bodies are finally like, starting to like stretch out and everything. Like, it was great. It was an exciting time, but we didn't get a parade. There was no parade in Los Angeles after the Dodgers won the World Series the next year because, everyone was wearing masks and being all scary. And, I feel like
was over there.
Yeah, Carlos actually went to the Rangers stadium and was there for Game 6 of the World Series when the Dodgers won it. So
yeah, so for Carlos, I know it
pretty
counts.
jealous. Yeah, for him it counts for sure.
It fucking
He's
counts.
a big advocate about of course it totally counts, but yeah, to each their own. All right, let's see. John went first last time. Javi, let's go ahead and give your prospect to stash.
All right. So my prospect, and hopefully they bring this guy up, man, because he's an exciting young pitcher for the Marlins, Max Meyer. So he started the season in the Marlins rotation, and in his first 3 games, he went 2-0 with a 2.12 ERA, 14 strikeouts, 3 walks, and a .82 WHIP. So all 3 starts, he dominated his opponents, especially against Atlanta, which you see Atlanta's lineup and you're like, yo, this dude has been injured, the past couple of years. So you don't really know what you're gonna get when he goes up against these top tier offensive teams. He dominated the Braves. They did hit 6 hits off of him, but he picked them apart, man. And I think he played against St. Louis, I believe, and I don't remember the other team that he pitched against, but he was looking good, man. And I understand, about these younger guys when they get injured and they have major surgeries, like Tommy John, which is what he had I think it was last season or the season before. So I know they're trying to limit his innings. So they ended up moving him back to the minors. And it's been a total shit show for him in the minors because he's 0-3 with a 9.24 ERA with 16 strikeouts and a 1.97 WHIP. So to me, it kind of seems like I don't know if how you guys would feel about it, but to me, it's like, man, I got demoted. Screw this. Like, I'm gonna pout and bitch about it because I wanted to stay in the rotation, which I understand, man. And that the Marlins pitching rotation doesn't not have a lot going for them. So I mean, if I'm the Marlins, dude, and I want to bring fans to, the stadium, and even though we're not playing great baseball, you got to put a product out there for the fans to go and see. Okay, so what do we got for the next couple of years coming up? I've always talked about how if the Marlins have all their top guys healthy, Yuri Perez, Max Meyer, uh damn, I'm shooting a blank.
Sixto, Sandy Alcantara.
Oh, dude is sick. Yeah, Alcantara. That's who I was looking for, dude. If they can just have a healthy rotation, this is an exciting team. Maybe not on the offensive side, right? They don't have a lot of big bats out there because they give a lot of their pieces away. But I think Myers, he's a good piece for them to just put out there, man. I hope they do because I feel like he has it. And I mean, what are you doing with him being in the minors? You're not giving him the opportunity to experience the majors, the way he should be. Now you're sending him back down. And you're like, well, I've been there, done that. So when can I really play and make a difference for the team? That's just how I feel about Myers and how they're handling his his innings and stuff. They are gonna I believe they are gonna bring him up sometime during the season. Not sure when, but if he's available, I would definitely stash him. If you have an NA spot, I would definitely stash him because if he's pitching the way he started off the season, dude, that's real shit right there, man.
Yeah, I completely agree. I really didn't understand the move of putting him back in the minors. I know he just had Tommy John surgery, like you just mentioned, but what's the difference of him eating up innings in AAA versus eating up innings in the majors?
Exactly.
It's like, were you trying to end him on a high note because he did so well in the majors and maybe that's trade bait for the future, but he's so young. Like, this is the type of player that you would build around. Especially with all those other teams, it's with all those other pitchers. I mean, it kind of reminds me of like when the Rays had Taj Bradley come up, and he was doing very well also. And then they sent
Last
him back
season.
down to the
Yep.
minors. Yeah. And then, he stinks it up in the minors too. Now, the only thing I'm thinking is sometimes they send these guys down to the minors to work on something, so it's like, all right, dude, we noticed that your slider is not dropping as much as we want it to. So we want you to throw 50% sliders. We're going to send you back down to the minors, and this is what you're going to work on. We know that you're going to struggle. We know your ERA is going to get inflated. You're going to allow a lot of hits, but this is what we want you to work on. So that way you could be a potential ace for us in the future. It's probably just working things out. And which kind of sucks for their AAA team, because these guys want to win also. They want to go out there and possibly go to the AAA championship. But, when the majors is sending guys down like this to work on things, it kind of sucks, but hey, that's baseball, right? You're not there to play in AAA. You're there to play in the majors and win a World Series for your team. Oh,
I'll quickly add to that. And that's why I actually don't trust Max Myers, just because the Marlins just don't have a good history of developing pitchers lately. So I would definitely add him as a spot start guy when they do call him up and stash him then. But just to sit on him, I think they're going to just toy around with him in AAA. And I don't want to say ruin him. I hope that's not the case. But I mean, it's not looking good down in AAA. I would have what is the harm, to your point, to just keeping him up here until something bad happened? I mean, he's been really good in major leagues. So,
all right, that was Max Meyer. John, let's go ahead and go with your prospect to stash.
Yeah, I like Jackson Jobe of Detroit a lot. He's currently on the injured list. So this is the definition. If you are in a deep keeper league, this is not a guy you're just adding if you're in a 1-year league. If you are in a deep keeper league, which is what I have him stashed in, he has a hamstring strain now. It's nothing too serious. He should be back here shortly, but he's pretty much dominated. Maybe not quite the attention and the domination that a guy like Paul Skeens has had this year, but he is one of the top pitching prospects in baseball. So he currently has a 2.16 ERA over his first 5 starts. He's averaging 12.96 strikeouts per 9. He's been walking a lot of guys. That's a lot different from what he was doing last year. So this year he's averaging 5.4 walks per 9. So that's why he hasn't gotten the call up yet. It seems like there was some talk after his spring training he could get the call up, but I think they're just trying to get him to limit his walks a bit more. He had 10 total walks last year. So just a lot more refining to go, but this is a guy I do expect that should get a call, get a chance here sometime after the All-Star break. And it's a guy who's electric. I mean, he's got the stuff to be an ace. And again, same thing, that I'm a big fan of is he doesn't have to be the guy. He doesn't have to be what Paul Skeens has to be, is the center of attention. I mean, behind Tarek Skubal and Casey Mize, I mean, this guy can kind of fit in and doesn't have to be, have all the attention on him.
Yep. Another good option. I really hope your leagues have NA spots so that way you can kind of like take our recommendations to heart and stash them for, until they finally make the call. And I think that the guy that I want to talk about now is going to make that call very soon. And that is Mr. Junior Caminero. It's kind of crazy that you guys have both pitchers as your prospects, and then I have a hitter, and then my injured player was a pitcher, and both of your injured players were hitters. But dude, Junior Caminero, so far he only has third base eligibility, but he has been seen playing second base in the minors, and I think it's because Brandon Lau is dealing with some type of injury, so they were kind of like prepping him to see how well he would do at second base, which is great if he gets second base eligibility. That makes his value just so much higher. So he's a 20-year-old third base / shortstop / second baseman, internationally drafted by the Rays. That's already a homer right there, man. The Rays are so good at drafting. If they draft, it doesn't matter who it is. If they get him internationally or sometime in like the earlier rounds, the Rays are one of the best at drafting. So I think that's one already that you can kind of just be like, oh, okay, I better pay attention to this guy.
Yeah.
So he is the number 3 overall prospect behind only Jackson Holliday and just like you mentioned, John Paul Skeens. Now, it's no secret that I'm probably lower on Jackson Holiday than anyone else, but Skeens and Junior Caminero are a way different story, man. So far this season in AAA, Junior Caminero is slashing 316, 385, 967, 967 OPS. I love that. 7 home runs, only 1 stolen base, which kind of sucks because he's 83rd percentile on sprint speed. You would imagine that he'd be running a lot more. But even in 2023, in 117 games, Caminero only stole 5 bases. I think it's kind of safe to say that Caminero won't be a stolen base threat in the foreseeable future, even though the Rays are a running team. He has the speed to be, but I don't know. I don't know if they're actually just going to send him or not. He's definitely got the power. 31 home runs and 24 combined doubles and triples last season. He's also hit above 300 at every level every year except the majors. He had a cup of coffee last season, only played 7 games. But he'll get his chance again soon. And I'm willing to bet that he will impress, dude. I think the Rays were kind of looking for another like playoff run, you know, and they haven't really been that team in the last couple seasons. They haven't, you know, the last time they went to the World Series, when was that? 2021, either 21 or 22. I don't know. So last couple seasons haven't really been like, you know, they haven't been the team that they were in previous seasons, but I think Junior Caminero is going to be a major asset to the team. And I don't think that there's any other prospect that you should be grabbing other than Junior Caminero, considering Jackson Holiday is probably already rostered on, you know, 90% of leagues. And Paul Skeens is universally rostered 99% at basically everywhere. So that's my pick, guys.
Pull the trigger.
Yeah, I really think it's going to happen. I wouldn't doubt it wouldn't happen within the next like week or two, you know, maybe even this weekend. Well, we'll see, man. Right now is the time to call up these prospects. It's a good time for it. Yeah. All right. And we are only at 51 minutes. So good timing, guys. Good timing this week. All right, let's go ahead and go with our player breakdown options. John, you want to start it off?
Yeah, let's kick it off here. All right. So player breakdown is a guy I will admittedly say I was actually not too huge on in the past few years, but he's really coming to his own. And that'll be CJ Abrams, at a shortstop for the Washington Nationals. So I don't know why I'm not a huge CJ Abrams guy, but this guy's just proving me wrong. You know, he's getting better and better every year. This is a guy who was traded for Juan Soto, and I do want to revisit this trade for a little bit. I love revisiting trades that actually work out for both sides. Not saying that the, you know, if the Padres had kept Juan Soto, would have looked a little bit better, but this trade went down in 2022. The Padres received outfielder Juan Soto and first baseman Josh Bell. In return, the Nationals received a haul of prospects. One shortstop CJ Abrams, outfielder James Wood, he could be a monster for years to come in this league, and we'll get to him on the podcast one day here soon. Mackenzie Gore, who's been a little bit disappointing, but he's still got plenty of time. Outfielder Robert Hassel, the third, who's a really legit prospect as well. Pitcher Jarlin Susana, and for good measure, Luke Voigt's tight jersey wearing ass. So, I will say, CJ Abrams, he was the 6th pick in the first round draft in 2019, and he's gotten better every year, like I mentioned. This year for the Nationals, Abrams is hitting .261 with 7 homers, 20 RBI, and 8 stolen bases. So for fantasy purposes, this guy's just a balanced producer all around. That's what you want to see, is balance. He's young. I think he's 23. He's young. So breaking down those numbers a little bit deeper, you know, I love the balance that I'm seeing. Overall, he's got an expected batting average of 308, which is good for 95th percentile in the league. A 504 expected slugging percentage to his actual 490. So it tells me there's not much luck involved there. His batting run value, batting and base running value are both well above average as well. Some things he needs to continue to work on is his whiff and K percentage. He does strike out a good amount, 18.4% of the time. He doesn't walk a ton, but he does get on base. He's fast. I think he's just trying to do a little bit too much. The Nationals don't really have a ton of guys down there, and this guy has been touted as the guy. So I think he's pushing a little bit, traded for Juan Soto. You have a lot of pressure on you as well. So breaking down his stats a little bit more too, he's not necessarily killing the ball. He's at or above average in exit velocity, barrel percentage, hard hit percentage. His speed's making up for some of that. He's got good power, as you can see with his 7 homers so far in mid-May. So that's solid for a shortstop, especially.
A 23-year-old shortstop. So
I'm gonna make this comp, and I might hate myself for it, but he kind of reminds me a little bit of Trey Turner.
Oh man,
So,
that's some big shoes to fill right there, man.
It is, and another guy I wouldn't hate to see wearing a Phillies hat here in a couple of years. So you never know, but I'll throw that comp out just because he's very balanced, he's fast, and he's starting to come into his own here a little bit. And he also started with San Diego, got traded to Washington. So maybe he gets traded to the Dodgers and signs with the Phillies in a couple of years. Just saying.
That's kind of funny. I really like CJ Abrams, and I kind of agree with you. I've never really been a CJ Abrams guy before, last season. But last season with the 18 home runs and the 47 stolen bases, batting average was kind of iffy. But with that expected batting average of 308, dude, I'm loving CJ Abrams. I feel like he was like a steal because what was he going in, like second round this season, I believe, like into the second round in most fantasy drafts. So I feel like you've been getting that type of production from CJ Abrams. And if he just keeps on producing the way that he is, I feel like he's been a little bit of a benefactor of bad luck, because the batting average is so much lower than his expected batting average. But he doesn't strike out a lot. I feel like you said, the whiff percentage it's a little high. He is getting a lot of swings and misses, but it's not on strike 3. So, or at least not yet. So his career strikeout rate is only 18.3%, under that 20% mark. League average is 22.2. The walk percentage, it's career high, 6.9, versus last year that was 5.2, and the year before 1.7. MLB average is 8.4. So I would like to see him get that up a little bit, especially because he's not like a really big like power guy. But I do like CJ Abrams. I like him in points and I like him in categories. All right, Javi. That was John's pick. Let's go ahead and go with your player breakdown pick.
Okay, so my player breakdown pick is a little weird because why would you be breaking down one of the best pitchers in baseball, right? Corbin Burnes, he's 29 years old, 3-2 with a 2.68 ERA, 49 strikeouts, 14 walks, and a 101 whip. So the reason why I want to break Corbin Burnes down, I don't know if it's more of a Burnes thing or if it's more of a Orioles thing, offensive thing. The Orioles are playing great, don't get me wrong, but I've watched when Corbin Burnes pitches and their offense just looks very stagnant. I don't know, man. Like to me, he kind of doesn't have that dominating. He's not dominating like he was with the Brewers. Maybe it's just me, man. I don't know. But I feel like if you play on the Orioles and you are the ace and you have this great offense that can produce runs and keep up, with like the likes of the Yankees and big top teams like this, I want to see 6, 7 strikeouts per game because we know that that's what you can do. But I just feel like the offense doesn't. He wins games like 2-1, 3-2, things like that. And like I said, it's maybe it's more of a offensive thing with the Orioles, but I seen him in a couple games and he just doesn't look like the same pitcher that he was with the Brewers. Again, this can be because of a new team, right? New stadium, new teammates. You need to gel, with your teammates and stuff like that. It's still early, man. I'm not gonna go, deep into his arsenal because we all know what he has, and we all know that he is a top 3 pitcher in baseball, right now. But I do expect him to be better because I mean he set the bar kind of high. And and he is, I want to say in his first year there, he is the leader of that team because of his veteran, status, and because everybody knows how great he is. So I just maybe it's not like a breakdown, maybe it's more of like a like I need you to do better because this is what we expect from you. Like what I see right now, yeah, the 268 ERA is great, but I want to see domination, dude. Like this is what we got you for. This is, you're supposed to take us to that next level. Like I want to see Corbin Burnes dominate because
What more do you need, Javi?
well, I need to see domination. Damn it.
Damn, I'll say.
So
His last game, he had like 2 strikeouts. Like,
yeah.
come on, man.
Yeah, okay. So this is the thing. He's traded strikeouts for ground ball percentage. Ground ball percentage in previous seasons. Last season was at a 44.1%. League average is at 44.6%. And this season, so it's basically league average in 2023. But this season, he's at a 51.7%. Limited the fly balls. It's down to 19%, which MLB average is 23.5%. And he's limiting the line drives to 19.7% versus MLB average, which is 24.8%. The strikeouts are really the only thing that I see is gone, which is really weird because I don't see a drop in velocity. I don't see like any difference in spin rate or movement or whatever. So maybe he's intentionally pitching this way, to put the ball on the ground more, maybe to stay in the game a little bit longer. You see his ERA. His ERA is amazing, 2.68. Expected ERA is 2.91. So if your expected ERA is a sub 3, like I'm still buying all in. Maybe he's trying to prevent injury because he was injured a couple seasons ago, and maybe it's because he was just like throwing a little too much rather than pitching, so maybe he's just trying something different. Maybe the Orioles see like, hey, we don't need you to get all these strikeouts because we have such a good infield, defensive infield, versus the Brewers. Like, they've kind of been like, they don't really have the defensive infield that other teams do. Maybe he needed to be that strikeout pitcher, which it kind of sucks for fantasy because you'd like to see so many strikeouts. He was the type of guy that would go out there, throw 6 innings, 9 or 10 Ks, sometimes even a little bit more. And now it kind of seems like he's more like a strikeout per inning type of guy, which is fine. But, drafting him as a number 2 or 3 overall pitcher in the league, I feel like I agree. I think we need to see a little bit more from Corbin Burnes. Just the strikeouts, man. Like I said, I think maybe he's intentionally trying to put the ball on the ground a little bit more. I don't know. It's hard to say without asking the team or listening to interviews or something like that. But I still see Corbin Burnes as a top 3. Like you said, he's only 29 years old, so he's going to be a dominating pitcher for the next at least 3 or 4 seasons.
Yep.
John, I know you want to add something about Corbin Burnes. Go ahead.
I don't know. He's just nasty, man. I love Corbin Burnes. I mean, yes, he's not getting the strikeouts. I mean, just breaking down his numbers a bit more, his 84%, he's 84th percentile in ground ball rate. Guys aren't hitting the ball hard. I mean, I get it. He's not getting the strikeouts, but if you aren't scoring runs, that's great for fantasy too. And I mean, he's a guy that we know can go deep into games. I think right now he's trusting his defense a lot more. And just looking at his pitch arsenal, I mean, 95 mile an hour cutter, 45% of the time, 80 mile per hour curveball, 22. I mean, that's disgusting. And then he hits you with an 88 mile per hour slider 17% of the time. I mean, the strikeouts are going to come. I think I think there's a little bit of manipulation. Hey, try this. You don't need to blow the ball by guys. You don't need to get 10 strikeouts a game. Trust your defense. Go longer into games. Stay healthy all year.
Yeah, last season his cutter was thrown 55.4% of the time. It's down to 45.6, so about a 10% decrease. And his curveball was at 17.1% last year. It's up this year to almost 22%. So increased the curveball, lowered the cutter. I think that curveball is just so good that it's getting a lot of either swings and misses, or batters are just getting on top of the ball and creating those ground balls, which, it's probably just part of the Orioles' plan. I don't know. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Right? Like, they probably want him to be able to go out there and pitch 6-7 innings because they don't have Bautista this year. They do have some bullpen options, but what's Craig Kimbrell going to do? I know, John, you can't stand Craig Kimbrell, just like Javi and I do, because he's been on both of our teams that we root for, and it just seems like every time he goes out there, you're just thinking to yourself, like, oh, here we go again. Game's lost. Like, damn it. We had this one. Yeah, and they bring freaking Kimbrell out there with his weird wind up and everything. Like, I mean, he was cool when he was with the Braves, he was pretty awesome to watch, but all right. Well, this is not a Craig Kimbrell breakdown. This is a Corbin Burnes breakdown. But yeah, strikeouts are down, but I still think he's a dominating pitcher. I think he's going to be top 5 for a long time. All right, we are running low on time, so I'm going to hurry up and get through my all right, Trevor Williams, the guy that is on our thumbnail this week, which Ernie was actually very excited about that when I texted that to the group. He's like, my boy, Trevor Williams. All right. So Trevor Williams, drafted in 2013. He's 32 years old. Round 2 by the Miami Marlins. I know his numbers look pretty good, but dude, I'm not buying in on Trevor Williams. All of his metrics, all of his metrics are basically unchanged from last season. Pitch usage percentage, velocity, whiff percentage, spin rate. The only thing I can think of is batting averages are down league wide. At the end of the 2023 season, the batting average was 248. So far this season, league wide batting average is down to 239. That's almost 10 points lower, which is tied for second of all time. It's the second lowest batting average of all time. That's crazy to think about. Since the beginning of Major League Baseball, this is the second lowest batting average. I think it's going to get a little bit better because I'm big on the weather, like we already talked about. But we keep on saying it's the cold weather, or, whatever reason anyone can think of. But I think something is definitely up this season. Second lowest of all time is crazy. If it is the cold weather, I think things will eventually turn around, but we're already in mid-May and summer's right around the corner. I'm thinking we're going to see a spike in batting average and ERAs. Some of the pitchers that are doing surprisingly well right now will not even be fantasy relevant going forward. Not saying that Trevor Williams won't be fantasy relevant, but his ERA won't be anywhere near the 196 it is today. After nine seasons with a career 4.38 ERA, I can basically guarantee that the 32-year-old Mr. Williams has not miraculously become an ace. And by July 1st, the latest, he'll probably be nothing more than a streamer that we use only against like the weakest of the weak lineup. So I'd say enjoy it while it lasts, because I don't think it's going to last too much longer. Yeah. Yep. And I know I got to be the downer sometimes, but I'm not buying into Trevor Williams. I don't know how. I mean, Javi, it kind of sounds like you agree with me. You don't really buy into Trevor Williams also. John Murrow, you have any thoughts on that?
I'm so glad you took this take. I thought you were going to be a Trevor Williams believer, so I am very glad that you are not. I mean, Trevor Williams, if you have him on your fantasy team, trade him high right now.
Yes.
Tonight.
A great trade high or sell high candidate. Ernie, if you're listening, maybe you can sell him to Jasper. Yeah, I don't know if Jasper's listening, but dude, I'm not going to block any of your trades. If you want to make a trade, go ahead and make a trade.
4.36 career ERA. His strikeouts per 9 are exactly the same as they were this time last year. He's trending downward. He's old. He throws an 88.9 mile per hour fastball. That's his best pitch. expected ERA of 3.30. He's on the Nationals. He's not going to get run support.
Yeah.
I could tell you 15 more reasons why I don't believe in Trevor
Right.
Williams, but
No. Yeah, I agree 100%.
more power
Oh,
to him though. If he has a
man.
great season, I'll eat my words, but I don't believe in him.
All right, guys, there's something that I forgot to do about 45 minutes ago. And Javi, if you're ready, now a word about our sponsor.
All right, today's episode is sponsored by Rival Fantasy, your all-in-one sports fantasy platform. Make sure to check out rivalfantasy.com or download the Rival Fantasy app and use code RealTalkBaseball. With our promo code, Rival Fantasy will match your first deposit up to $200. Fantasy baseball is what this show is all about, and Rival Fantasy's unique sports betting platform includes best ball, fantasy bingo, daily and weekly drafts, and daily challenges. So if you guys want to make some money on the side, sign up.
Hustle. Get that money.
Hustle.
Get that paper.
And right.
All right, guys, we've reached the end of the show. If you like this video, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button, share, do all that good stuff. You can click the QR code in the top right corner. Let me see if I can get that for you guys. There you go. You can click that. You can scan that QR code in the top right corner right there. Yeah, there you go. The thing that John's pointing at right there. All right. And thank you guys for joining in. And we appreciate you for listening and watching. And we'll see you guys next week with some more good content. See ya.
Hey, everybody.